Hello everybody, welcome to the Boxing Science Podcast. This is episode 73. We're going to be answering your questions all about strength and conditioning and sports science in boxing and combat sports. Got a range of different subjects in today's episode, including the difference between amateur boxing and professional boxing from a fitness perspective, how to introduce running to younger athletes, we've got core training advice, how to train the arms, and also how to manage sparring. So before we get into this week's questions on the Boxing Science Podcast, I'd just like to ask a quick favour. We've looked at the analytics on our YouTube channel and we've noticed that only 30% of people watching these videos actually subscribe to the Boxing Science YouTube channel. That means that a massive 70% are currently not subscribing. And if we could change that towards 50%, this will mean that the channel will grow, keep continuing, giving you bigger and better content going forward. So hit that subscribe button so you support the growth of the channel and you don't miss any content going forward. And let's get on with this week's episode of the Boxing Science Podcast. Do you think there is a big difference in fitness levels between top level Olympic boxers, so amateur boxing, and a top level professional fighter? I would imagine them being similar. They both dedicate their full time to boxing training. So this is a really interesting topic to kickstart the podcast. The reason why it's so interesting is because you do see a lot of top level amateur boxers putting in that work, if not harder work than top level professional boxer. You only got to see some of the videos that come out of GB boxing, intense track work that they do, the hard rounds of bag, pad, and also sparring rounds as well. There's not a lot of research that's actually looked at the difference between fitness levels of an amateur boxer and a professional boxer. Probably the reason why is because I don't think that they'd find that significant findings. The fitness levels, strength and conditioning are very individualized in terms of like different backgrounds, training backgrounds that each amateur boxer has. So I don't think that you'd see much difference between a high level amateur boxer and a high level professional boxer. However, some of the comments that I'm going to make now is just based off experience. I've worked with many top-level amateurs that have transitioned into the professional ranks and put them through the Boxing Science testing battery, looking at the physiological profiling through lactate profile, Wingate assessments, and also taking them through the conditioning methods that we use at Boxing Science. And I have noticed some key trends in terms of differences between amateur and professional, and some amateurs, what they actually struggle with when adapting to the professional boxing style. So to start off, I'd say that if you were going to do a aerobic capacity assessment, looking at VO2 max, high-level amateur boxers will probably score a very similar VO2 max score to a professional boxer. They have very good aerobic capacity, but it's all about how they get there. So the main trend with amateur boxers is that they go at a really high intensity, but they maintain that intensity over the 3-minute round because they're only doing 3 rounds. Whereas the professional boxer can't afford to do that. They have to take their time, working in an explosive burst to try and look for that knockout, but also be mindful of going 6, 8, or maybe even 12 rounds. The main thing that I'd say for amateur boxing, what they need to do in terms of transitioning to professional boxing is working on the peripheral adaptations, working on some 30-second max out sprints and different variations to work their aerobic capacity and their ability to extract oxygen at the muscle cell, because that ability to utilize oxygen will help reduce the lactate response. Also then working on muscle buffering capacity, in particular looking at our repeated sprint protocol of 12 seconds on, 48 seconds off, between 15 and 20 repetitions. And this is looking to work them explosive bursts, having a recovery, and then going again. So they're the main things that I'd say for an amateur boxer transferring into professional. Now, like when you have a general discussion with amateur boxing and professional boxing, what you would say is now you're going from amateur to professional, instead of going at that really high intensity, you now need to work on your low intensity, your aerobic capacity. However, very opposite to that, you almost need to work at a much higher intensity and being able to then recover from that, because then that will help you work in explosive bursts more efficiently and more effectively as well. Best way to improve reaction time. So obviously reaction time is going to be important in boxing, where we're going to be reacting as quickly and as effectively as possible to the movements of our opponent, whether it's them being attacking or defensive, whether they're throwing punches, combinations, and you're looking to defend, block, and potentially counter as well. But I'd say like a lot of this is ingrained, like kind of subconscious activities, decision making, and a lot of anticipation as well. The punch is delivered so quickly. A lot of people get caught with the punches that they don't see coming. That's because they're not anticipating the shot rather than reacting to it. With this in mind, I wouldn't particularly have a focus on reaction training to try and improve reaction time. But what I would do is look at some sort of concentration drills, and concentration drills under fatigue. So a fantastic concentration drill would be like doing a number grid, Blaze Pod reactive training, focus drills, whether that's like some sort of brain training app or brain training activities. And you can do this in a sedentary setting, doing it away from the gym, or you can do this under high pressure or fatiguing situations. This is why we use the Blaze Pods in between intervals in our high intensity conditioning. Once an athlete is fatigued, get into the red zone, this is where their concentration and focus is going to be affected. This is where poor decisions and poor reactive time can come into play. So we use the Blaze Pods in between and set our athletes a score to try and hit. Really big contributors, are probably bigger contributors to doing some reaction training, is having a set game plan in place and having things that are drilled in the gym, then come out in fatiguing situations. Jordan Gill against Karim Gurfi for the European title. It's a drill of working up against the ropes, working on defense, like worked with his trainer, Dave Caldwell. Then he was able to land the punch. It weren't like a situation that he hadn't drilled in the gym. So rather than thinking, right, I'm going to be reacting to the situation, it's being prepared to use that tool when it's needed in the ring. And then also having some positive self-talk there as well. Instead of having the negative self-talk, I'm feeling tired, my legs are feeling it, I'm breathing heavy, I'm not reacting to the shots. The positive self-cues will help improve that concentration and reactive time under fatigue. A best example of all these put together is Fabio Wardley, with his knockout with Justice Hune coming in the 10th round. And this has come from a series of things that have been put into his training camp. The drills that he does with his coaches, Ben Davison and Robert Hodgins and Lee Wiley as well. He has a clear plan going into them fights. When he's fatigued, he can just reset and think, right, this is a drill that I need to go through. This is something that I practice during training camp. Openly admitted in the fight he was getting frustrated. He had to have a word with himself in the fight and resetted, came out in that 10th round, really sharp, boxing to the game plan. And then also to add a little percentage to helping him in these fatiguing situations is using the Blaze Pods in between intervals, having that concentration element and that focus under fatiguing situation, and also a high pressure situation as well. It seems like I've gone a little bit off topic here, but kind of summarize it, doing reaction training isn't the be all and end all to being focused in the ring. It's a lot more that goes into it. Having a set game plan, doing the drills in the gym, having that positive mindset during fatiguing situations, then also you've got your concentration under fatigue as well. To add on top of that is to change some of your conditioning drills from doing an air bike or doing some running conditioning where you can take your mind elsewhere, but doing some circuit-based conditioning where you're having to focus on technique, speed and power under a fatiguing situation. All these things are really important for you to improve your reaction time in the ring. What is the most effective way to introduce youth boxers to running? So this is quite an interesting question. The reason why is because I see a lot of young amateur boxers, I see the coaches and the parents just trying to push them to be as fit as possible. The main goal that what they want to be is to increase their fitness for their boxing performance. However, going to be quite fit as it is through their boxing training, sparring, bag work, pad work, they're going to be very active through school activities, PE, any other sports that they might do as well. So they're going to be very fit. When I see like young amateur boxers going out on 5Ks, 10Ks, doing long steady state runs, that time could be best spent working on their athletic ability, working on their movement ability, strength, speed, explosiveness, coordination, all these things that are very trainable when an athlete is young. And you want to be optimizing that window of trainability. So with young athletes, we prioritize working on circuit-based exercises that are working at really high intensities. And when they're working running, we're looking at increasing their speed and power. Sprint training, doing repeated sprint training, and also our max effort sprint training intervals. And we want to try and increase that to make them as fast and as powerful as possible and make them into high intensity athletes rather than working towards endurance-based athletes. Like I said, this is the window of increased trainability that can set them up for the future. If they're just doing long steady state runs, it's going to affect how strong, fast and powerful that they are in the future. So in terms of introducing youth boxers to running, I'd be more looking towards working on sprints, working on 5 to 10 second sprints with a long recovery, let's say 1 to 2 minutes. This will feel really weird for boxers to do because they don't feel like that they're working that hard. But what this is doing is priming that central nervous system to improve speed and power. That's what I do. And if you want like any more guidance on this, go and check out our amateur boxing strength and conditioning program, where we've got a full season of training that's going to be adapted around your large group sessions, working on limited time, limited facilities as well, plyometric strength and conditioning sessions, core circuits, and also you've got your high intensity conditioning in there as well. So go and check out the link in the description. It's currently running at 50% discount to kickstart this season. So go and check out the link in the description for the amateur boxing strength and conditioning program by Boxing Science. From a martial arts coach that's concerned about CTE. I don't allow my fighters to do hard sparring because of CTE. I have multiple levels of sparring. However, I'm losing fighters because they want to do the hard sparring. Are you able to give me some scientific safety on hard sparring strategies to help solve the issue of hard sparring? The research and data around like CTE in boxing and contributors to it, it's a little bit scattered at the moment. Obviously, there is like really unfortunate stories about boxers getting CTE, whether it's from the training or from the sparring, but it's very hard to pinpoint what's been the contributing factor. Obviously, with doing rounds and rounds of hard sparring, you want to try and reduce this as much as possible and also be working on an athlete's skill, experience, boxing specific fitness. So hard sparring is needed. Obviously, this needs to be managed to be competitive sparring, where you're not basically throwing in an athlete to essentially get beaten up, but then making sure that this hard sparring is only done at certain times to try and prepare for competition, not just be doing it week in, week out, making sure that their fitness levels are adequate enough to be able to sustain their technique, their skill, their defensive skills as well over the selected rounds. There's lots of different stuff that you can be doing to try and protect a fighter. Hydration going into sparring, rehydration after sparring as well, having rehydration strategies in there, having refueling strategies in there, creatine as a big factor as well. Maybe talk to our nutritionist, Lee Rickards, about that, boxingscience_nutrition. Other things can be managing the types of sparring that you're doing. It sounds like you're doing a good job on that already, but I'll be looking at like doing more technique spars, drill work, and maybe even doing some body sparring as well to fill it out. Body sparring is a fun activity to do. Everybody can kind of do it, various levels and abilities can get involved as well. And it's a fantastic conditioning tool without taking the headshots as well. So there's a few different tips there, and managing programming perspective to be using some sparring, making sure the competition level is adequate, making sure the fitness levels are adequate as well, and then start managing your nutrition around it to make sure that you're hydrated and fueled and then refueled after the spar. And then also managing the types of sparring that you're doing. doing some technical or technique sparring, and also doing some body sparring as well. So you're still getting that conditioning and that fun element from that challenging element that a lot of boxers strive for and need in the gym, but also saving them from taking too many headshots. So this is a question that's come up quite a few times on our Q&As. Are there any plans for Train Like Champion 5? There is. It's been a long time coming. Train Like Champion 4, our most advanced program today, was already 4 years ago. And we've been focusing on different kinds of programs, including our salt bike conditioning, ultimate speed and power programs, circuit conditioning, also the amateur boxing strength conditioning program. Even though we haven't done the Train Like Champion for a while, we've got like some introductory and also more advanced training plans for you right there. But for those that are waiting for the Train Like Champion 5, this is in the works and should be available back end of 2025 or early 2026. In the 4 years between Train Like Champion 4 and our 5th installment of the Train Like Champion series, our training has just advanced. We're tweaking and evolving, being in the Boxing Science Performance Centre, learning more about what contributes to successful performance in boxing. Our experience of working with world champions and high-level professional boxers has brought our training programs to the next level. So really excited for that Train Like Champion 5. There will be announcements about this back end of 2025 and early 2026. Okay, this question: what is the optimal/good range of body fat percentage to aim for in boxing? It all depends on the individual, how their body responds to a low body fat percentage. We've got some athletes that have gone to sub 8% body fat, maybe 6 or 7% body fat. I have some athletes that make weight at 10, 11% body fat. It all depends on the athlete, how they feel, how they respond. Obviously, when your body fat is reduced, this affects your energy levels and your hormone levels as well. We're just needing to make sure that an athlete feels good at the body fat percentage and at the weight that they're going to be fighting at. Performance nutritionist Lee Rickards does the skin fold assessments to assess body fat and tracks this camp by camp, sets a goal for each athlete based on their individual metrics and what they should be hitting. My advice to you was getting in with a performance nutritionist to try and get that assessment done. From a general perspective, we'd say for male boxers that are not heavyweight to be between 8 and 10%. But like I said, this is very individualized. For females, it's even more individualized as well. We have some females that hit their limit at 12%, some are like at 15 or 16% body fat. Again, that is highly individualized, even more than the males as well. So it's very hard for me to give a set answer. What I would say is to get in with the performance nutritionist. If you're wanting to get in touch with Lee, go and check him out on Instagram, boxingscience_nutrition. And you can actually book in one of these assessments where we're looking at your body fat, looking at your resting metabolic rate, and also we can take you through the Boxing Science testing battery as well. How do you train arms specifically if you don't have big arms genetically? So there's many ways to train the arms, and it's not just as simple as doing hundreds of bicep curls or doing some brutal tricep extensions. We need to make sure that we're building muscle in the right way, and that is targeting fast twitch muscle fibers rather than doing hundreds of bicep curls, getting slow twitch muscle fibers, slowing the arms down. We're wanting to increase hand speed, but also, especially with heavy weights, we're wanting to make sure that the arm has enough mass to have the snap, to be able to control force at the end range of the punch. Our arm training, we go very specific on what we do. First of all, we have a target rep range, like for simple exercises such as bicep curls, tricep extensions, go between 8 and 12 reps. We then have different variations. We have blood flow restriction training, where this restricts blood flow towards the working muscle. So then this fatigues the slow twitch muscle fibers. So then we can recruit fast twitch muscle fibers and high threshold motor units. So we're getting the right type of muscular hypertrophy. We also do some isometric training, whether that's a tricep push down or bicep curl, where we're looking at recruiting high threshold motor units and high amounts of force through doing an isometric movement. And this is also going to be help tendon health as well. And then we've got some eccentrics as well. So a typical exercise would be to do cheat curls, where we're cheating the first part of the movement, the concentric part of the movement, and then taking advantage of the eccentric portion of the lift. And the reason why is because we're wanting to increase eccentric strength, because this is what we're wanting to try and control when going towards punching target. If an athlete is unable to decelerate going towards the target, they'll end up snapping back. And this is where athletes end up getting either shoulder pain or they end up getting elbow pain. A few different tactics there, working on set rep range between 8 and 12 reps, using blood flow restriction training, using isometrics, and also using some eccentric overloads as well. Okay guys, so that brings us to the end of the Boxing Science Podcast, episode 73. Thank you very much for watching or listening, and thank you very much for those that send in their questions. If you're wanting to get involved with the Boxing Science Podcast and for me to answer your questions, you can become a subscriber and you'll get updated when we're going to do a Q&A. We set a post in the community tab, and this is where all the questions come in. So if you're wanting to get involved for the next Q&A episode and want me to answer your questions about strength and conditioning, sports science in boxing and combat sports, become a subscriber. Don't miss out on them posts in the community tab. See you on the next episode of Boxing Science Podcast.